I told you I come from the swimming world and the Olympic world, so I'm curious, how do you move forward? How does the league move forward? And most importantly, how do the players move forward?
I think first and foremost, the players now feel like so much fear was present in the reporting of this, and obviously Mana and Sinead felt strongly enough that they had to go on the record, right? Their story had to be told, but so many players that I talked to were still so worried about their names getting out there, and whether they were in the game, out of the game, had moved on to a different thing. We're still, everyone was so worried about consequences to them, about this story is going to go public, right? And people are going to pay attention to the league, and it's a very damaging story, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you need, I think, that sunlight in order to figure out what path the league has, what path professional women's soccer has, what path soccer in general in this country has. And that's really the only way forward out of this moment, is to actually really understand what has happened, how the sport has been built, and if players feel safe. Again, like, that's kind of the fundamental construct of, we have to come back and bring it back to the players and allow them to lead right now.
Meg, when you talk about the path forward, in our conversations, we keep saying again, that we're still talking about these same issues. And I think our viewers should know you've been steeped in soccer culture since 1999, really, those 99ers. So I've heard you say that you don't like the structure of the way this league is set up and many women's leagues are set up. As we move forward, what needs to change? What's wrong in the structure, and what should these women's leagues be doing instead?
I mean, I think the structure is one thing. I also just think that there is this fundamental expectation for women's sports to be successful, or they should go away, right? There is this expectation that an NWSL should immediately be on the same level as the NFL, and that's the only way we should justify giving it attention, airing games, giving it sponsorships, etc. Like, we have to understand that women's sports are operating from a place where they've only really just been professionalized over the past couple of decades, right? Women's soccer is ahead of the game when it comes to women's hockey or women's softball, right? So soccer's already further along. I think everyone is still behind WNBA and women's tennis, right? Women's tennis is really kind of the furthest along in this path. But what really we need to, I think, both peel apart the structure, but understand that time and investment are so key, right? That we don't have to meet the viewership numbers of the NBA at this very second for women's sports, because they're still growing. And that's one of the really exciting things about women's sports, is that there is this potential for explosive growth. But at the same time, you have to start thinking about, what have we copied from men's sports that is not needed? And that is a question that I think a lot of people who have been involved in the building, they just want to say, well, this works over here, why can't it work for us? And I think what we're finding out now is it hasn't.
I have to say really quickly, so I worked for the NBA for 10 years, and I remember David Stern saying to me, I will not let the WNBA fail. So he wasn't putting it to any standard, he just wanted it to thrive and survive. And that's kind of what you're talking about. Just let them exist, and they'll find their path.
Right, and I think what we're seeing too is, obviously, yes, this is a very, critical moment for the NWSL, but even before this, we had seen additional investment. I mean, the fact that the games are on CBS, right? The championship is going to be on big CBS was a tremendous step forward for this league, but you need those chances. And you need to be able to find those moments where the investment is actually going to be given. And now, obviously, a lot of people's eyeballs are going to be on the sport at a very difficult time. But that doesn't fundamentally mean that the players aren't worth investing in, or that the game is bad. There have been bad actors within the system. That doesn't mean that investment shouldn't still be happening.
Well, the eyeballs are going to be back on the field on Wednesday when they are going to resume play. What do you expect from the players when they take the field?
I'm very curious. So I'm actually going to Philadelphia for the Gotham FC Washington Spirit game. And again, the Spirit have been going through some things. Gotham has gone through their own changes this season. But what I have seen so far from the players is that they are willing to sit on hours of Zooms to figure out how they work as a collective whole. I think we are going to see a lot of pressure, both in terms of what we're seeing from post-game, media time, right? But also, I think there will be things happening on the field. I fully expect especially in markets like North Carolina and Portland that were so directly affected by this reporting, that the fan pressure will be on. It's going to be one of these moments, I think, that is going to really stick with us over the next few months, over the next year as we start to move past this. But I think Wednesday night is going to be a night that we have never seen in the NWSL before.
Well, Mana and Sinead said they were grateful that you brought this story to light. We are grateful that you've been here and you were able to do that as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.